Welcome CSC 235 to ex12, and this will be working with databases. And my original intention was to work with a MongoDB, and a MongoDB is a NoSQL database, and it's basically a database with no tables. And it's something that's kind of newer and people are using more, and you could connect to with Flask and Express, and it's all hip. You'll see things about MongoDB. I've always worked with MySQL databases or MySQL databases in the past. They're table-based. They make sense to me. I think they're easy to work with. But for this course, for advanced web, I've been trying new things I haven't worked with before. I haven't worked with Flask before. I haven't worked with Node.js before. I haven't worked with these things, but I thought it would be great to explore these things. But the problem is working in Replit and trying to do this cloud-based in an online class, there's problems constantly. And I don't want to be giving you something where you're going to have a lot of problems if I'm having problems. If I'm having problems, how are you going to do it? So anyway, here's an example. I created a MongoDB. I just put in 4 records in here. Now they call them documents. Records in MySQL are the items in a database or in a table. Now they don't have tables, they have collections. So I have a collection here, a SpongeBob database, and I have a characters collection. So it's kind of like a database and a table in MySQL if you ever worked in MySQL. But characters is my collection here. And I have 4 documents in here, and I just made it SpongeBob characters. Now they actually use JSON, and they use these key value pairs. Now the key fname, and then there's a string, which is SpongeBob. There's a key of lname, and the string is SquarePants, so that you could create a database with these characters. Species, gender, year born, and notice that's a different color because that's using an integer. And also color here, I just gave them colors because they have different character colors like yellow and brown, pink and red and things like that. So these are all strings. This is an integer. That way we could kind of sort them out and filter them. And you could put these little queries in here. So if you wanted to find all the characters that are gray, you could go in here and use the color field like this. And I'll just start it off with this curly brace, and then I'll put color, colon, and in quotes, I'll put gray. And I think I have too many curly braces here. And that's good because now it says apply. So I'm going to search out or filter all my results. Now I only have 4 documents in my collection, and I'm just going to hit apply. Now, this should take 2 seconds. Already it's taking long. And, that's why I'm like, this is crazy. I'm doing things, I'm connecting to my database, and I'm going into Replit, and I'm getting this kind of stuff. Now, this does not look like fun at all. I'm connected here, but I'm getting all kinds of errors. So every time I do something for backend, I end up having to stop and start again because it just doesn't work in Replit. Let me go back here and see if I got anything. I don't have anything here. Now it's just coming up 1. Wait, Squidward Fancyson. I don't know, something's wrong here. You should be Squidward Tentacles. But anyway, I think I have another database that I worked with, a Squidward Tentacles and then Squilliam Fancyson. So there'd be 2 here. So actually, that's right. There's only 1 coming up here when we do a query of color gray. How about anybody who's red? Let me see if anybody is red here. I don't know if I did anybody red here. I don't know if I did Mr. Krabs. Let me just see if I could find any characters that are yellow. So I'll just do color, colon, and a string of yellow. And I'll apply, and that should come up with SpongeBob because he's the only yellow character. And you could kind of sort through things and filter things like that. Now, this is using kind of this JSON syntax. Now, I'm used to using the MySQL syntax. Now, again, that's kind of how MongoDB works. Now, I'm not sure what makes it better than a table-based database. When I set it up, I had to just keep copying and pasting things. There wasn't a real easy way to set this up either, even though we're using all the same kind of keys here as you go through, as you look at all these things, all 4 of them. So it's a lot of copying, pasting, and stuff like that. It was not too much fun, but it was interesting. I never worked with a MongoDB before. And the thing is, there's Python that can work with a MongoDB. Python could also work with MySQL as well, but I wanted to try MongoDB. I created an account. It's not really a quick, easy thing for everybody to do, so I'm not going to ask you to do that, and I'm certainly not going to ask you to come into Replit and deal with this. This has just been a headache, and again, if I had known some of these things would be such a headache in Replit, or even just working with back-end stuff. I really wanted to work with some back-end stuff. I had hoped we could work in Gorm, and that just gave me tons of headaches as well. And I didn't just want to plow through JavaScript all semester, even though that's fun and it's good to learn JavaScript. The more you learn about JavaScript, the better. But from that first video that we watched, I wanted us to kind of explore different things. So we are sometimes good, sometimes not so good. So what I'm going to do, instead of working with MongoDB after all that, and I don't think you want to deal with this right now, in MongoDB, and connect to it with Node.js and all that, and just kind of following a bunch of code, we'll kind of work with something a little bit easier. How does that sound? I think that sounds a little bit more fun for now. I'm already 6 days behind in our new unit because of dealing with this. I've been dealing with this all week and trying to find alternatives at work, and it's really been a headache, and I apologize for that. If I had to do it all over again, I'd have us all install XAMPP or WAMP or MAMP, which is actually something you can install on your computer, and you could run a virtual server on your computer. But that requires everyone to be able to download something and install it. And some people use Chromebooks, and you can install software on Chromebooks, but otherwise, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do that, because then we could run WordPress, we could do all that, but we do it virtual. It's not web-based. It also makes it hard to share anything. It's nice with Replit, you could share stuff. I can't see anything if we installed WAMP or XAMPP or any of that kind of stuff. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll show you a video with WAMP or XAMPP, because it's nice. You could download it, and it just runs a server on your computer. And it's not online, it's not in a browser, it's actually software that creates a virtual server. But anyway, after all that, here's something that's really easy to do. Go to phpMyAdmin, phpMyAdmin.net. Okay, and then when you come here, it's free. We've done this in the CSE 103 class, and I don't know if we used any other classes, but we did work with MySQL in the database class, and we also worked with MySQL in the Programming 1 class last spring, where we worked with some Python and some SQL. Just a little bit. We didn't do a whole lot. But it worked, as opposed to what's going on this semester with some of this Node stuff and Mongo stuff and React stuff, which is a whole other monster to deal with, and Express and all that, and Flask. It's just none of this stuff is really meant to just kind of, hey, let's do this for a week or two. But also, I don't know if any of it's meant to do for a whole semester either. If you're not going to work with Flask, why spend a whole semester working with Flask? So, I'm trying to give you little tastes of things. I don't know if that's the best approach. Maybe you'll hate this class in the end and think it was a waste of time, but I really tried to kind of expose you to some other things here, even if you find some of these YouTube guys and some of these Udemy guys who really do some great videos to learn more. And that's where a lot of people learn this stuff anyway, not necessarily in a college class. I'm just trying to expose you to some things here after just learning basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in CSE 230. So anyway, if you come to phpMyAdmin.net, come here and try demo. It's free. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to create an account or anything. Now it's open, so it's completely open. So whatever you do, everybody else can see it. So if I go here, try demo. Now it comes into PHP MySQL initially. I think it comes there. They have a lot more here, and where I like to go is the MariaDB, because it's just a little more hidden. There's databases here. Now, anybody can create these. There's World Database, there's SoccerFed. I had one called SpongeBob. I made it, I deleted it. Now, you're going to do that too. Now, World is one I've used in other courses, and they have it on here. And basically, the way it works is here's the database, and here are the tables. These are tables within a database. Now, just to make it simple, if I go to... I don't want to go to city because I could see there's 4,000 rows. I don't want to go to country language. That has like 1,000 rows. But if I go to country, there's only like 300 or so. Now, I don't think those are all the countries in the world. I think there's more countries than that. But there's 239 in this database. And basically, it shows you this database, and it's running an SQL query. Select all from country. Country is the table, and it's showing you all this. Now, if you work in WordPress, and you have that hosted on a server like GoDaddy or Bluehost or something like that, you'll have access to phpMyAdmin. So this gives you a little bit experience of just looking at it. And you can see your WordPress database and change anything that you need to on it, or at least get into it if you need to. Now, this is kind of a GUI approach to get into a database instead of just writing SQL code. Now, it writes SQL code. Here it is. But you don't have to do that, because we just looked at everything, and this is showing when you select everything what it looks like. And we're not going to edit anything in here. We're not even going to work with country. You can even export this out of here, but you can certainly look at the way this is set up. This is the structure of the table country, and you can see that these are the fields or columns. Sometimes they're called fields, sometimes they're called columns. Usually they're called columns in SQL, but they're really fields. They're at the top, kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. So these are the categories. So they have a code that you don't really do anything with. Sometimes that's auto-generated. Sometimes an ID can be auto-generated. But then they have column names: name, continent, region, surface area, all this kind of stuff here. We're not going to do anything like that with SpongeBob, but we are going to do something with SpongeBob. Now, even here, they have something called enum. That means you have a drop-down list for continent, because there's only so many continents. How many are there? 9 or something? There's more now than when I grew up counting continents, but they have a little drop-down, I think, when you go into continent. So you could go there and sort through whatever continent if you want to add something. So there's browse, there's structure, there's SQL. You could do any kind of queries in here. You could go in here and do select all from country where, and let me just backspace here, where population and is less than 5,000. Let's try that. Select all from country where population is less than 5,000. I don't know if there's less than 5,000 people in any country, but there must be. So here's an SQL query. And then I'm going to go down here and hit go. And how many did I get? There's 16 total. So that was an SQL query. This is the code, but I just went in here and kind of looked. So this is displaying all the records. Now these are the records in an SQL query, where in this thing, they're called documents. In MongoDB, they're called documents. Every kind of record in here is called a document in the collection, because it's not really a table. They're key value pairs. But in here, these are considered records. I think the technical term for MySQL is rows. So rows, records, columns, fields really mean the same thing. But I guess if we're going to stay technical to SQL, that would be rows and then columns. Columns go along the top, these things, and then rows are the records going down. So just know that about SQL. If I have a quiz on that, you should know what the rows and columns are. So the categories are the columns. The rows are the things that are in there, that were added to there or originally there. So, and they're subdivided so that you can go through and run queries of everything from surface area to region to continent to size to population, all these kind of things. And here's population here. Now they're showing all different ones here. They don't even look in order. I'll go here and order. You can even order it. Here's a SQL code here. Order by country and then population. So you can order by population. There's nobody in Antarctica and there's nobody in Micronesia. Micro, I guess it's very small. There's nobody in Antarctica. There's nobody in East Africa. And there's only 50 people in Polynesia. There's only 600 people in Australia and New Zealand. Now, that can't be right. I mean, I think they have these broken out by different kind of countries here. But anyway, this is SQL queries, and this says ASC, that's ascending. So we did queries a little bit in the Python class. We do it a lot in the database class, which hasn't run since 2021. But anyway, this is a free, phpMyAdmin is a free kind of front-end GUI to kind of go through MySQL databases instead of just doing this in a terminal. You could do this in a terminal, and we will do some of that. But what we're going to do is create a database. So let's create a database real quick. And actually, I'm kind of giving my little intro here of phpMyAdmin. Let's go back again, and I'll talk about how to do it. And then in part 2, we'll create a MySQL database, and we'll work with it in something called Python Anywhere. Now, we worked with that in Programming 1. We work with it in the database class, and it's real easy and simple to use. Unlike Replit working with these databases, it just has a hard time with databases. But in here, you're able to create and import MySQL databases in here. They even have an area where you go to databases, and you can just go and create one. Here's world, here's SpongeBob. I'll delete that and make a new SpongeBob one anyway. And we'll make one here. Now, you could try to do this and see if it works. You make your own database. And because everybody's in here, you could put your initials after it. So what we're going to do here in part 2 is make a SpongeBob database. And I'll show you how to do it in here. Now, don't mess with the world one. We're going to make a new one. Now, again, just to review, you're just going to go to demo.phpMyAdmin.net. Now, if you just go to phpMyAdmin.net, it'll go to demo, I think. No, it'll go to the front. It'll go to the front page, but then you could do try demo, and that puts the little subdomain demo in front of it. Remember, that's a subdomain, demo.phpMyAdmin.net. And what you're going to do is go here to the MariaDB, and you're going to create a database called SpongeBob, but you're going to put your initials on it so you can personalize it. And if you have any problems with it, because again, this is open here, it's not your own account, You could always download somebody else's or something. So you'll see a bunch of SpongeBob's in there. You can just put SB in your initials or something like that. So we're going to make a SpongeBob database in this phpMyAdmin, and then we're going to go into Python anywhere. And again, I'm doing this just to keep us moving here. I'm getting delayed here with this backend stuff, and I want to do a little backend, but I'm having some problems, so we're going to do this. I think this will be certainly helpful for you to work with a MySQL database, even if you never have. And even if you work with WordPress or anything like that, I think being familiar with a MySQL database is just as beneficial as being familiar with a MongoDB. At least you saw MongoDB, you see it works. You could certainly sign into MongoDB and create your own account and see if you can connect to it. It just seems difficult to connect to this from Replit. Even if you look it up with ChatGPT and all these other places, it makes it look real easy to do, but it's just not. Videos I've looked at are kind of older and things aren't quite the same, so it's really hard to stay up and have something. So I don't want to waste your time, but I think this will be fun to do. So in part 2, we're going to make our SpongeBob database.